We are following this morning a guide we've picked up which is discovering 400 years of Coniston's copper-rich mining history. And we can see the miners' bridge where lines of pack horses crossed the bridge to take processed copper ore from Bonsor Mills down to Coniston Station, and eventually it would end up in the smelting plants in Swansea. Swansea was known as Copperopolis because of all the tremendous industry they had there to do with the copper mines and workings and smelting, and they are trying to recover some of that. This is Coppermines Valley, which took millions of years to make as we see it now, and the earthquakes tilted and cracked this land, leaving fissures that slowly filled with molten copper ore. And this is what the miners found over 400 years ago, and they risked their lives following them deep underground. And they got out the ore with picks, fire and gunpowder. And then the water, the fast flowing water, was used to harness water wheels which powered the mine pumps, and so they were using everything that was here. And as we were walking up this morning, the sun was shining brightly on the copper slag heap, but also the whole area is a coppery colour because of the dead bracken, so it's all quite appropriate. The row of terraced houses were built for mining families back in the 1800s, and they were known colloquially as Irish Row because so many Irish families came over to work in the mines. And the Redmonds are a typical family. Mark and Hannah lived there with their 4 daughters and 1 son. Mark was 37 and Hannah 35, and both were Irish, and they've lived in Coniston for 12 years. Mark works as a copper mine lad, and their eldest daughters, aged 13, 11, plus their 9-year-old son Peter, are all copper dressers at Bonsor Mill. These lumps are waste slag from the valley's own short-lived copper furnaces, because they decided to build their own furnaces rather than selling it further away, and they started one in 1893. But technical problems and a destructive gale meant the project had to finish within 2 years. We are in the centre of Upper Bonsor Mill, which was the vast ore processing mill where people battled weather, noise and risk of injury to break the valuable copper ore from its surrounding rock. And so you can just try to imagine what it would have been like with all that going on in this vast space here, which is now abandoned. The heyday of Coniston copper mines was in the 1820s till about the 1870s, and that's when demand was high and it was profitable. And John Barrett, who was a successful mine manager in Scotland and Yorkshire, was brought here to Coniston in 1824 by the mine manager John Taylor. And he shook up Coniston's productivity by introducing water power, better mining techniques, and he created the Bonsor ore processing factories, which we are in now. And he made his home in Holywath, which we have to pass when we walk up to the valley. And he died in Coniston in 1866. But the prices plummeted as vast new mines in Chile, Australia and North America produced massive amounts of ore, and Coniston's mines just could not compete and they were closed. And in fact, in Chile, it's still mined, which was first mined in 1879, and it's still mined now, the largest open pit copper mine in the world, still. Coniston's 400-year-old copper mining industry owes its origins to millions of years of geology, but it rose and fell by the inspiration of entrepreneurs and the fickle fortunes of global economies. It's very impressive looking down the valley now and seeing all the remnants of what was, and not much in the water either at the moment, but we know that can change very quickly. We're at Paddy End Mill, where there's been work in existence here for a long time, where the ore from the mines has come down to be processed by the mill and processing plants, and now the water is used to supply the nearby towns. We're at Simon Nick's viewpoint, and it's a rather tragic story behind that name, which I'll read to you. His name was Simon Puthparker, and he worked a profitable mine here in 1637. The story goes that he was led to it by fairies on the promise he told no one. Fueled by drink in the Black Bull, he boasted of his find, and the next day he was killed by exploding rock while water cooling a fire in his mine. The crag above us still bears his name, Simon's Nick, and perhaps his ghost. Years ago, this is where the miners from Coniston first started hacking their way underground to find the copper, when Queen Elizabeth I was on the throne, and they worked by candlelight to remove just enough rock to squeeze along the emptied veins, and some set fires underground to speed things up. They would throw water and vinegar on the embers to crack the superheated rocks. What a thought. We're looking down now on the site of the Bonsor mine and get an idea of the scale of the operations. We've walked around Kennel Crag from Simon Nick's viewpoint, and quite a walk it was too. The path seemed to disappear quite a lot of the time. Anyway, here we are now at Thriddle Incline and Shaft, and what we see is this enormous stone water wheel, and the information says about this that engineman Thomas Milligan operated this water wheel, and he did it for many years, but on Wednesday the 21st of August 1850 misfortune struck. Every morning Milligan makes sure the wheel powers the pumping rods until the mine is drained, and the rods run up the shaft along the stone-ramped incline beside heavy winching chains, and then the ore buckets have to be winched up the shaft at exactly the right times to keep the production flowing. But what happened on Wednesday the 21st of August was that an order was shouted for him to stop the wheel, and he didn't. It kept turning, and when somebody ran to find out what was happening, they saw his mangled body in the wheel pit. Did he slip into the fast-turning wheel while greasing the axle? They'll never know, but it's a tragic way to end your life. This is the old engine house and Bonsor mine entrance, and this tower held the wooden channel that brought fast flowing water from the fells to turn a massive water wheel. And if you stood here in 1870, you would hear water thundering down the channel. The water wheel creaked as it drove water pumps to drain deep Bonsor mine and hauled clanking trains of tubs heavy with ore. The wheel was controlled by an engine man who worked the flow of water to stop and start, slow and speed up the wheel as needed. We're at the site of Bonsor East Engine House, which is the Coppermines Valley's first water wheel for the deep mines. And it turned in this rectangular pit and lifted out rocks and pumped out water. The very first one. This is the Miners' Rock, so called because some of the graffiti on it is from the miners back in the 19th century and the stone quarrymen workers, and there's a mark there that says J. Mara 1871, as well as some more up-to-date graffiti scribbled on there. We've nearly completed our circuit of the Coppermines Valley now, and it's been a very impressive walk. The fact that we've been concentrating on the mining that's gone on in the area, and there's been the information boards at various spots, has really brought it home to us, the scale of the operation and the difficulty of it all, the number of people that were involved. And we're quite tired having walked all the way around it, but many of those people would have walked up and down the valley every day for their work, and in all sorts of weather. We're doing it in wonderful weather, and so yeah, it's been a good walk.